I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's the author of several books, and her latest book, Love It or Lose It, no other than Miss Barbara Hemphill. Welcome on Book 101, Miss Barbara. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm so glad to be here. I love to talk about my books. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and 47 years ago, ran a $7 ad in a New York City newspaper that said disorganized. I organized closets, files, kitchens, you name it, called Barbara Hemphill. And it launched an entire industry. Nobody had ever heard about hiring someone to organize their lives, and that's where it all started. And as a result of that, I've written several books. My most popular originally was called Taming the Paper Tiger, and it dealt with all of the paper clutter that people have. And my most recent one is the one you see here called Love It or Lose It, Living Clutter Free Forever.
Miss Barbara Hemphill, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. So tell us, how do you personally define chaos in this context? Is it external overwhelm, internal confusion, or combination of both?
Well, it's a great question. And one of the premises of the company I founded, Productive Environment Institute, is that physical and digital clutter or chaos is a symptom of emotional and spiritual clutter or chaos. And
Mhm.
that's what I've learned through the years because when I was working with clients who had difficulty getting organized or letting go of things, if I asked enough questions, I could always find out that they'd had a severe emotional loss in their life.
Emotional loss. Indeed. And Miss Barbara, how can we begin to differentiate between noise and chaos, the distracting, urgent, but important task, and the signal, the core issue that actually need addressing?
Well, I define clutter as anything that prevents you from accomplishing your work and enjoying your life. Means it has to start with having a vision. So you have to have vision of what you were created for, what you want to do, what would make you happy. And one of the questions I ask clients always is if you left this earth tonight, what regret would you have? And
Mm.
that answer is so critical because it is that project, that idea, that relationship is what is preventing you from having the life you want. And the interesting thing is, many of the people that I work with answer that question by saying, it's the mess I'm leaving my children.
Interesting answer, Miss Barbara. And what is the tangible toll that living in a state of contrast, chaos, takes on our decision making, creativity, and well being?
Well, I'm going to flip it around and say that it is our lack of decision making that creates the chaos. So my company's been built on four words. Clutter is postponed decisions. And I learned that originally when I first started with clothes closets. Your clothes closet is full of stuff because uh, you haven't decided whether you're going to lose the 10 pounds you need to lose in order to get into your favorite pair of pants, or the exercise equipment that looks so good on Home Shopping Network that you haven't used for months, or the present you got from somebody you love, but it's not really your style, but you don't want to hurt their feelings, or the papers that have numbers on them and you don't really know what they are, but they have numbers on them and you're afraid that you might need them someday for an audit. And so it's all about decision making and deciding. So, how do you decide? You can ask questions. And one of the questions is, what's the worst thing that would happen if I didn't have this? Because it's not a moral issue. It's simply, we call it the art of organizing. Um, I've worked with many, many clients. And several years ago, there was a woman who said, "Oh, you just die if you saw my office," because it was all full of clutter. And so I said to her, she was getting ready to go to a new job, and she worked out of her home office. So I said, "I'd like to gift you 4 hours of time to clear the clutter from your office before you start your new job." And she said, "Oh, I couldn't do that." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, because you would just die if you saw my office." I hear that over and over and over. I said, "No, I wouldn't die." But I said, "I don't have to see it. You can bring the clutter, put the piles of paper, the files in a box, and bring them to my office. And
That
we'll organize them there." So that's what she did. And we'd worked together for about 2 hours, and she was just ecstatic. And I said, "So I'm really curious. Why were you so reluctant to accept my gift of organizing?" And she said, "I'd hired 3 professional organizers in 2 states and paid over $10,000, and I was worse off than when I started." So I said, "I'm curious, what's different about what we did?" And she said 2 things. She said, "One, I never understood before that my papers were postponed decisions. And 2, you didn't tell me what I should do. You asked me what I was willing to do."
Yes, indeed. So, on the mindset shift, when faced with overwhelming chaos, what is the first shift in mindset one must make to stop reacting and start responding effectively?
To create, in Proverbs, it says, "Without a vision, the people perish." And it really is a matter of having a vision of what your life would be like if you didn't have all the chaos. What is it that you could do? How is it that you would feel? What would make it different? And you need to make that come alive so you can really, really experience it. So when that goal is strong enough, then there's always a way to get there. And we have a 5-step process that we use. It starts with that first step: state your vision. Then 2, it's identify your obstacles, which is like, what have you tried in the past that didn't work? Or what are you afraid of? Or what might prevent you from succeeding? And step 3 is commit your resources. So it's like, okay, how much money are you willing to invest to solve this? Or how much time are you willing to invest? Or what software do you have? Or what tools do you have? Or what colleagues do you have? Or what skills do you have? And then you go to step 4, which is the critical one, which is design and execute your plan. So it's in order to reach this vision, overcoming these obstacles with these resources, what is the plan? And then you come up with this plan, always focused on the question, what is the next action? So you're not making it a big, overwhelming thing. You're just saying, what's the next step I can take? And then it's really critical. All the brain studies show that celebrating your successes is really important. And then step 5 is the critical one, and the one where most people fail with any project they're doing. And that is sustain your success, because very few plans work right the first time. But if your plan is not working, it means that something in one of those first 3 steps has changed. Maybe your vision has changed. Maybe you thought you wanted to do something and you tried it, but realized it didn't really suit you. It wasn't really what you wanted. I'll give you an example. For years, I thought I wanted to ride horses. When I was little, we didn't have enough money to buy a horse, and I never got one. And then when I became an adult, I had a friend who had a horse, and he said, "You can come horseback riding with me." He said, "Oh, fantastic." So I would go horseback riding. And then the extra horse they had, wasn't able to ride anymore. And so I went to a stable and went riding. And I realized I wasn't enjoying it as much. And I was kind of fascinated by that. But the trainer said to I made the comment to her that I've always loved horses. And she said, "Loving horses is not the same as loving horseback riding." That was a complete mindset for me. It's like, I realized that the reason I'd enjoyed the first experience so much was that I loved the friendship of doing it with that person, but then doing it apart from that. So that changed my vision. And then I could move on to something else. But everything that you say, think, or feel about that project, whether it's taking up a new hobby or cleaning up your office or writing a book or taking a trip or starting a business, all has to do with creating a vision, then identifying your obstacles, committing your resources, design and execute your plan, and sustain your success. And you notice the common word in those 5 steps is your, because it is an art.
Miss Barbara, how does learning to mentally step back and simply observe the chaos without immediately getting emotionally entangled create the first opening for clarity?
I'm not sure. People think that they can ignore the chaos and move forward, but that hasn't been my experience. Chaos takes a terrible toll on people, and it's often the little things that you don't even see anymore. It's been there so long that you don't even notice it. It's like the post-it notes that people put around, but the reminder's been so long they don't even see it anymore. So part of it, the move forward is raising your awareness to the fact of what that chaos is actually doing to you. And ignoring it is just like ignoring emotions. I mean, if you are angry or unforgiving or sad or anything else, and you ignore those emotions and you just push them down, you're ultimately going to pay the price. You know, the price of pay me now or pay me later. Well, that's true with chaos too, because chaos always takes a price eventually.
Eventually, for sure. And what is a practical technique for hitting the pause bottom in the middle of a chaotic situation to prevent a knee jerk reaction?
I didn't understand that question. Can you ask it again, please?
So, what is the practical technique for hitting the pause bottom in in the middle of chaotic situation to prevent a knee jerk reaction?
Well, I think one of the simple things that makes a huge difference often is just simply breathing, just slowing
Hmm.
down and taking deep breaths and saying, what's going on here? Paying attention to your environment. The company I founded is called Productive Environment Institute. And we define a productive environment as an intentional setting in which you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life. And your environment impacts you so much. So you can add things to your environment. Many people, for example, when they want to concentrate, they add music, but a certain kind of music, not just any music, but a certain kind of music. Or they change the way or the height of their desk, or they move to a different place. Your environment impacts what you're doing. So when you are tempted to do a knee jerk reaction, you need to stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and say, what's going on here? And what can I do to change this environment so that I can progress forward?
Yes, for sure. And what is one of the powerful question we can ask ourselves in the eye of the storm to immediately begin orienting towards clarity?
You can ask the question, what is one thing that has to happen for me to feel happy with my progress? Because it's always about progress. It's not about completion. It's about moving forward. And everybody, in no matter how difficult the situation is, everybody can identify one step forward that they can take to move in the right direction. And when they take that step forward and then celebrate that success, okay, I did that. I can do one more. One of the things people often say is, "Oh, I'll try." And I always have them do an exercise. I say, pick up your pen, and then I'll say, try to drop it. There is no trying. You either do or you don't. And that's the way when you're moving forward, when you hijack yourself on going somewhere that you want to go, by picking some small step, making it, and then celebrating. Often we find there are three things that are required to really move forward in life to have a productive life. First of all, it's a system. You really can't accomplish anything, much of anything, without a system, because system, we use the acronym saving you space, time, energy, and money. Every time there's something that you have to do repeatedly, you need to have a system to make it easy, because there are fewer decisions to make and you don't have to agonize over it. So whenever you're trying to reach a goal, having systems really helps. Secondly, it's accountability. We're all far more willing to be accountable to other people than we are ourselves. So having an accountability partner, whether it's a friend or a coach or a counselor, will make a big difference. And three, the thing that really helps, we have a program called SOAR that works in community, because one of the factors that impacts us is our embarrassment over the fact that we haven't accomplished what we thought we have. We all kind of suffer from an imposter syndrome of being afraid that we're not as good as we're portraying ourselves. And all of us suffer from that in some areas. So then when we get together with other successful people who are accomplishing things, but are also dealing with issues, we're less critical of ourselves, and it gives us the courage to move forward. And that's really what it's all about, is just taking the next action and keep moving forward, because as long as you're breathing, it's never too late.
It's not too late for sure. And Miss Barbara, as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, I have a new book coming out. So a book will be coming out next year, called The Art of Organizing Information, which will be about physical and digital information. And I believe that at this point in my life, I've been an entrepreneur for over 40 years, and I really love to connect entrepreneurs together. There are some really major problems in the world now, and I believe they will be solved when entrepreneurs take the things that they know and connect with other entrepreneurs. I believe one of the principles of our company is together we are better. And as an entrepreneur, it's not about getting a bigger piece of the pie, but it's about creating a bigger pie so that we can accomplish our work and enjoy our lives and enable others to do the same.
Indeed, and good luck to your goals, Miss Barbara. And looking forward for that book and looking forward for the success. And tell us, what is your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you?
Well, the first thing you want to, and being an author, by the way, I think research shows that 80% of the population believes that they have a book to write. 3% write it, but only 2% publish it. And I think publishing a book is one of the most amazing legacies you can leave, because you never know who's going to read it going forward. And so the first question you want to ask is, what is the message you want to leave for whom? Who are the people that you really want to make a difference? I particularly like to help entrepreneurs. That's my target market. But it may be something you want for children, or maybe there's some critical factor that you've gotten through that you want to help other people. So, who are the people you want to help? And then the question to ask yourself is, what do you want them to know, do, or feel differently as as a result of the book that you've written?
Yes, and thank you for that advice, Miss Barbara. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
I have read, I'm an avid book reader. I'm always reading four or five at the same time. Um, and there's a brand new one out now called Smart Work Matrix by Melvin Pillay. And I think it's a life changing book. He's been fortunate to sell it all over the world. He just told me recently that a business in New Zealand bought 5,000 copies of it. And it's a really life changing book if you want to accomplish more work with less stress. So it's called the Smart Work Matrix.
Indeed, thank you for that recommended books, Miss Barbara. And Tell us, what is the most common obstacle that prevents people from moving from chaos to clarity, and how can they overcome it?
The most common one is fear. And fear comes in many forms. It's fear of making a mistake, fear of forgetting something, fear of offending someone, fear of letting go of something and wanting it back, fear of not being good enough. And so the question then you can ask yourself is, what's the worst possible thing that would happen if that happened? And then you play it out and figure out how you would solve it, figure out what resources you need to get past it, and you move on to the next thing. But overcoming fear is critical in order to move forward and to have the life that you dream of having.
Miss Barbara, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 view in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and mental health 101. Love letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Barbara, if you could promise, or if you could promise one outcome from consistently practicing this transformation, what would it be?
If I could promise the result of doing it,
Yes.
it would be whatever it was that you wanted to do. It's because the whole purpose of it is to identify what is the one thing, or if you look at the question I asked at the beginning, was if you left this earth tonight, what regret would you have? Well, if that a regret is one that you want to avoid, then it's like getting a plan to move forward so you don't have that regret anymore. And there's no reason you need to have it, because you can move forward step by step if you get the right help and have the right attitude.
Love it or lose it. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Barbara. And can you please invite our listeners to support all your books? Miss Barbara, where do people can buy your books?
All of my books are available on Amazon.
Yes, and please do again invite them to support your upcoming book next year.
Well, it will, you have to watch for it. It will be on Amazon as well as soon as it's ready, probably early next year. And you can always go to my website, barbarahemphill.com.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Barbara Hemphill, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Barbara, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.